weighing in at about 1 million pounds.
With a length of 365 feet,
The International Space Station took 42 flights from the American space shuttles and Russian Proton-Soyuz rockets to assemble.
this engineering marvel was constructed by 5 space agencies representing 15 countries from around the globe, with the United States being the largest contributor. Support for the U.S. segment is distributed between 4 other space agencies: the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, the Canadian Space Agency, the European Space Agency, and the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency. The space station has been home to 273 people from 21 countries.
Since its launch, the station has seen over 3,000 research investigations done by over 100 countries. This state-of-the-art microgravity laboratory is unlocking discoveries not possible on Earth.
And it continues to orbit the Earth and provide a platform for science and an example of international collaboration.
You can even see it from your backyard.
Today we are going to learn all about international collaboration with some help from our friends at Hart Middle School. This is STEM in 30.
Today we are building space station models.
Our colleague Laura is in the classroom right now describing the project and putting our students into groups.
Let's go peek in.
We are so excited to be here today at Hart Middle School. What we're going to be doing today is we are going to be building a space station to be in space. Has anyone heard of the International Space Station before? Raise your hand if you have. Awesome, a couple of people. The International Space Station is constantly orbiting Earth. What you all are going to be doing here today is you're going to be working on teams to create modules or sections for a space station. You are going to be working on teams and representing imaginary countries in order to build these modules. Now, these modules are going to be inside of 2-liter bottles, just like this one that we have right here. Those teams are going to make sure that these modules have at least 3 different components. Now, these components can be a variety of different things. Maybe a component is a bathroom, maybe one is a laboratory for biological experiments, maybe one is going to be a gym, maybe another is an airlock, so astronauts can get on their spacesuits in order to do missions out in space as well. So you and your group are going to create one module for this space station in which there are at least 3 different components. Within your teams, you're going to have a couple of different people with a couple of different jobs. So those jobs might be a procurement agent, maybe a budget analyst, maybe an engineer, maybe an artist or a designer, and you'll also have a liaison in your group as well. That liaison is going to work with liaisons from all of the different imaginary countries or groups in order to determine which groups are building which components into their space station. Every space station has to meet particular specs for their design. So each group is going to have a budget of $10 million, which sounds like a lot of money, but when you start doing your design and buying your different materials, which is going to be the job of your procurement analyst, you're going to realize that that money is going to go a lot faster than you think it is. So the person who's the accountant will want to make sure that they're keeping track of how much you're spending and where you're spending that money as well, and to make sure that you are within your design constraints. So everyone is going to have a job and everyone is going to need to work together within their groups, but then also work with the larger class as well. Do you all like to build stuff?
Oh, yeah!
Amazing.
Let's learn a bit about the different jobs our friends are going to be taking on today.
First, we need someone who can help the countries decide what they're going to build.
They need to be able to facilitate cooperation.
Let's meet the liaisons.
The liaison will need to work with other countries' liaisons in order to develop a plan for which modules will be built, who will produce each piece, and in what order they should be developed.
This position needs a person who is a good communicator, negotiator, and who can keep a lot of ideas in their head. They also need to be good note takers. The liaison will have to work with members of other groups to make sure that each group is getting a piece of the station that they are certain they can develop and deliver. Next, we have the people who are in charge of the money.
We're going to need a couple of different money people.
First, we need the accountants.
And the purchasing agent.
The accountant will be responsible for the budget process and keeping track of spending to ensure that their group doesn't go over budget or too far under budget.
For this position, you'll want to choose a person who is good at math, but also comfortable with being firm with other team members to ensure that the project is kept on time and on budget.
The purchasing agent will work with the engineering team to produce a list of items that need to be acquired and will work closely with the accountant to ensure that the project stays within budget and within the timeline established by the teams.
This person will need to be a very good communicator. They will have to be sure they understand exactly what their team needs. They will also understand the budget and work with the engineering team to see what materials must be purchased to ensure success and safety. But they also will need to know where they can cut costs without jeopardizing the mission. It's not just money required to make a space station. It takes some real creativity.
When you think of creative types, you probably think of artists. But engineers are also very creative, and together they have to be able to design and build each module.
Good artists help engineers, and engineers help artists realize their vision.
The concept artist will work with the engineers to design the modules. They will take the lead when imagining the spaces to include form and function, as well as taking into account the livability, look, and feel.
The concept artist will need to be someone who is very creative and who can think outside the box while designing something for inside a box or module. They will also have to understand scale to make sure they can fit everything needed into the module. Good listening skills are required, and being able to take direction from the engineering team in order to create the best module for both astronauts' well-being and their work environment.
The engineer will understand what needs to be done in the module and what materials will be best for building out the project. They will have to ensure that the concept artist's design is able to be produced for real-world applications and that it will meet the criteria set by the team.
The engineer will have to be able to communicate well. They will need to work with the concept artist to develop a structure that is not only hospitable to the astronauts, but also durable enough to withstand outer space. They will also have to understand what materials have to be used for the success and safety of the project. They will have to be able to defend their design to the rest of the team.
Have y'all ever ridden on a school bus?
Yes.
What if you took a road trip with 5 of your best friends on a school bus? Would that be pretty fun?
Yes.
How about for 6 months?
No. It's cool.
Oh, you think it's cool? What if you couldn't get off the school bus?
That would be different. That would be kind of difficult.
And you had to do everything on that school bus. What would you have to do in 6 months?
Recycle.
You have to recycle. What would you have to do?
Bathroom.
You have to go to the bathroom. Sleep, eat,
Do activities.
Workout.
activities, workout. That's exactly right. But we only gave you a certain amount of water. So what are we going to have to do with that water?
I'm gonna recycle.
We're going to have to recycle that water. So think about all the water that you might use in a day and what happens to that water. And then it's going to come back around. Kind of gross, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
You gotta take waterfalls.
So would you want to go on this adventure with people you like or people you don't like?
People we like.
This is why knowing your crewmate and getting along with them is a really big deal.
Let's head over and get to know your crewmate.
Hey everyone, I'm Christopher Williams and I'm here with the the astronauts of SpaceX Crew 1, and today we're going to play a game called Know Your Crewmate. This is how the game is played. I'm going to make a series of statements, and you're going to need to raise the paddle with the name of the crew member who most resembles each statement. Are we ready?
Ready.
Yep.
All right. Who snores the loudest?
In space or on ground?
Who enjoyed the most space food?
That's easy. That's easy.
It's easy.
Okay, we have a runaway show here. Here we go. Who is the most likely to lose things?
I know the answer.
All of us.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Suichi. That's true. I did lose my spoon.
Yeah, spoon.
Oh, the spoon.
I did lose my spoon.
Yeah.
So.
We do have a saying on station, the station taketh and the station giveth back, and it does. You'll lose something and 2 months later you'll be just floating in a module and all of a sudden
Come by.
there that object goes.
Except the first
Except for my
Except for the
spoon.
spoon.
right.
My spoon is still gone.
Who is the most likely to crack a joke?
I'm gonna go there.
Yep.
Okay, 3-1 here.
So the thing with Suichi was it wasn't necessarily a specific joke, but he had just the one-liner for whatever kind of conversation you were having that he would throw out, and it was always funny
And very unexpected.
Yes.
Who is the most likely to get caught singing?
Ooh.
Well, after today, I'm.
Yeah, that's where I think I'm going there too. Yeah.
And what do you like to sing?
Pretty much anything's going, but I'm partial to disco. So.
Who was the most homesick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I do that?
Everybody. Yeah.
So what did you all do to feel a little better and get back in touch with people at home?
Lots of phone calls.
Phone calls, the video chats are great.
Yeah.
And then, a lot of the things that we would do when we had some time off would be similar to what you would do at home. Friday night was movie night
Yep.
for us
Movie
as well.
So what was your favorite movie to watch? Now that we're talking about movies.
Oh, we
Marvels,
rolled a lot
Marvel.
of stuff. Marvel
Marvel.
movies were big, so we had a saying, when something was going on and we just had to get it done, we had a saying that was, this is the mission, right? To remind us and focus. Well, we changed it because of The Mandalorian. We would say, this is the way. This is the way. And so we finished The Mandalorian in orbit
Right.
and The Expanse.
Now for the last question. Why is it important to know your crewmate?
Oh.
Because you're living with them in a small space, and so it is really true. You're a family, and so knowing your family, knowing how they're feeling about things is important to get the job done and be safe.
And I think one of the things we've talked about a lot, and the chief of the astronaut office at that time, and he talked about trust. And I think that trust comes from knowing each other as well, and that's a huge part of space flight. But knowing that you could trust each other to do the right thing when the chips were down was extremely important.
This is the way.
This is the way.
See what I mean?
Right on time.
What do we tell you?
And so folks, I'm just letting you know I did the tallies and you're all winners.
Yay!
Diplomacy is all about working with people.
All people.
It's not an easy job, and you need to be respectful of other countries, cultures, and experiences.
Sometimes countries don't get along well on Earth, but they have to survive in space. And international cooperation goes well beyond the space station.
Here in Washington, D.C., there's an entire museum dedicated to diplomacy.
Hi, I'm Lauren Fisher, Head of Education and Public Programs for the National Museum of American Diplomacy. Located in downtown Washington, D.C., the National Museum of American Diplomacy highlights the history, practice, and challenges of American diplomacy. Through exhibits and programs, the museum inspires the American public to discover diplomacy and how it impacts their lives every day. In the year 2000, Secretary of State Madeleine Albright approved a plan proposed to create a museum exploring American diplomacy. In 2014, Secretaries of State Henry Kissinger, James Baker, Colin Powell, Madeleine Albright, Hillary Clinton, and John Kerry broke ground to start construction on the 2-level glass pavilion, which currently houses the museum's multiple exhibits and hosts various events throughout the year. Think diplomacy is all about a couple of people sitting at a table signing treaties? Our collection will surprise you with what it has to tell. From ping pong paddles to lapel pins, our objects highlight the stories of dynamic, hands-on, creative forms of diplomacy. Through exhibits, simulations, and other programming, the museum helps visitors to understand the roles that Foreign Service and Civil Service officers, policy experts, and diplomats play in American diplomacy. Our education programs equip students to tackle the challenges facing our world today by revealing the complexity of international issues, the role of the U.S. Department of State, and how diplomacy plays out in protecting the security and prosperity of Americans at home and abroad. A central part of our programs is teaching the skills and tools of diplomacy, or what it takes to be a successful diplomat. The National Museum of American Diplomacy brings diplomatic history to the forefront through exhibits, and it's dedicated to collecting items of diplomacy. Through this work, the museum aims to create a more collaborative world. So come visit us and discover diplomacy like you've never seen it before.
Our friends have just about finished up their modules.
They did a great job sticking to their budgets, working together, and collaborating with other countries.
Let's take a closer look at these modules.
So with my budget, right, I was with Quay. She was trying to spend a lot of money, so I was trying to tell her, like, we can't spend all this money because I don't want to run out of money real quick, and we still got to get more stuff to build outside and all that.
My accountant is like, the people right here spent all the money, and I have to know how much they spent and all the stuff like that.
You have to make sure you were on budget because you didn't want to pick up too much stuff that you couldn't afford, so you had to try to be creative and know what to choose and pick.
My favorite thing about building my module was just figuring out where everything would go and how everything would work out in the end. I learned that you need to have a specific way that things are put around the ship so that it can work properly and when we get to space.
My thing about building a module is this one right here. It's like a telescope where you can see the space stuff and all of that.
I have 2 astronauts, and one is upside down, and the other one is trying to help the other astronaut get down.
This whole part right here is the lab and the bathroom. This is a biology lab. This whole part right here is the lobby, and then this part right here is like a cafeteria and the part where we get in.
These are my 3 rooms that I made. This one is the chemistry room, this one is the gym, and this one is the bedroom. The bedroom is my favorite room because it has electronics you could use before you go to bed, and it has pillows. And I like the gym because it has rubber bands, and I heard that astronauts use rubber bands when they work out up in space.
You all did a great job. Now it's time to bring all of our modules together and construct our space station. But first, you're gonna need a cool name.
Okay guys, we have to come up with a great name. Any ideas?
How about freedom or independence?
How about Washington? It represents where we live and our first president.
We need something that represents our school and us.
What about Heart? It's the name of our school.
It also means how much we care.
Ooh, I like that. Can we put US in front of it?
Amazing! Everybody's gonna love that.
Our liaisons came together and named the space station. And the name of this station is the U.S.
Heart. Wow, what a wonderful name.
You all did a fantastic job, but we have a little bit of homework for you.
You'll need to go home tonight and see the real International Space Station pass over.
Yeah, you can go outside and see it from just about wherever you are.
And this is how you do it.
We can spot the International Space Station from our backyard, and all that we need to know is when and where to look. Let's start by going to the NASA website, spotthestation.nasa.gov. This will give us all the information we need. Now, let's try to spot the station. We see on this pass the station will become visible at north-northwest at 8:32 p.m. Let's be sure we are on time because the space station won't wait. First, let's use our compass to find west. Now find north. Northwest is between north and west. North-northwest is between northwest and north. Okay, got it. Next, we see it's going to disappear in the east. Got that location? The entire visible pass will happen between those two areas. Now we have to determine how high it's going to be. Height is measured in degrees. There's a simple way to determine this height. Hold your hand out away from your body and make a fist. If you place the bottom of your fist on the horizon, that line where the sky meets the ground, the top of your fist will be approximately 10 degrees. You can then stack your fists on top of each other to reach 20, 30, 40 degrees or higher. Tonight, the space station will appear at 10 degrees north-northwest. If I place one fist in front of me while looking north-northwest, this is where it should first become visible. Got it. It will disappear at 20 degrees east. Right there. At its highest point, it will reach 40 degrees. Bingo. We now have a good idea of the approximate path that the space station will be traveling along. It's almost time. Let's look in the general direction of where the pass will become visible. We will scan a wider area in case we are a little off with our measurements. The station does not have lights outside that are visible from Earth. When we see it, we are actually seeing the sun reflecting off of it. Once the station becomes visible, it will take about 6 minutes to pass across the sky. It will not blink like an airplane. It will look like a very bright star that is traveling very fast across the sky. Here it comes. Wave to the astronauts.
Unfortunately, we are out of time, and our friends, well, they have to catch the bus.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow STEM in 30 on Facebook and Twitter, and subscribe to the National Air and Space Museum's YouTube channel.
And if you want to check out the lesson plan we used for the episode today, be sure to scan the QR code and look at the teacher tips.
Thanks for watching.
Let's learn a little bit more.
One moment, still getting you framed up.
I was going to mess it up anyway.
See what I tell you? Who's going to mess it up?
Who's the best at math in here? You? All right. You're going to run out of fingers.
We're not there. We're not
Crinkle,
rolling.
crinkle, crinkle. All right, we'll do it a couple ways.
Are you done crinkling?
No. But see, I got soft stuff, not...
All right, okay, just let's go.
And the AC is about to fall
Okay,
onto you.
all right.
I messed you up because I don't like that line.
Okay, that's fine. Okay.
Quickly, here we go.
hungry?
Yeah, exactly. Here, building.
And together, they are in charge of designing and building the space station. Look at that.
I love it. Love it, love it.